afternoon. As has been mentioned, the title of this panel discussion is How Will We Get Them to Read? Creative Ways to Build a Reading Culture. Now we could just read a book after lunch, but I thought that might not be a good idea. We're going to try to keep our panel discussion moving, active. We know this is a time when we tend to get sleepy, but this is a super important topic, and we've got a fantastic panel superbly qualified to speak to this topic. To my right is Mr. Elliot Aguiari, who we've heard from before, head of the Ghana Publishers Association and Smartline Publishing. We have Ms. Matilda Amisa Arthur, who's an author, professional librarian by background. She heads an NGO, which I love the name. It's called Breaking the Myth. You can ask her what that means. And Ivanova Nonofotso, who's an author from Cameroon, and she'll be speaking with us from the perspective of the Francophone Africa world as well. Lily Nar, to Ivanova's right, is with the Ghana Library Authority and Extension Services. They're doing some really creative things to make books accessible in all around Ghana. And Pusna Miri, author, leadership trainer in Abuja, Nigeria. So what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to have some introductory remarks from Matilda regarding the importance of reading and the challenge that we face, building a reading culture. And then after that, she will kind of set the stage for what we'll discuss. We'll just turn this into a Q&A, and we'll have time at the end for questions from you. Lara talked about she really liked Oprah. We'll try to just imagine you're watching. I don't look like Oprah, I guess, but you can imagine that this is kind of a talk show format, and you'll be able to participate as the audience. So I'd like to then turn it over to you, Matilda, with some introductory remarks.
Thank you. Thank you. We all know the importance of reading, so I won't go into that, but I'll just say a few things that as an author, as a librarian, and as one who sets up libraries, have come to realize. Most of us agree that people are not reading, children, adults are not reading. And for me, it's important to find the reasons why they are not reading so that we do not just jump into one area of it, because in the various things that I do, I found out that in Ghana, for example, we used to think that children were not reading because there were no books in the system. That's what we used to think at some point. And therefore, in the 1999 to 2001, the government put books in schools. And then some of us used to think that there were not enough libraries. And then we found out that every NGO and everybody was setting up libraries. And then we found out that with the advent of internet, digitization, children, adults were spending more time on those things. So for me, it's a multi-hydra problem that we have to look at in all the aspects in trying to make children and adults read. And again, I have also found out that in Ghana, people have seen reading as an independent thing that does not affect their lives. And therefore, life goes on and reading comes into a pocket. So I see all those different facets, and for me as a librarian and an author, I would love to look at the different ways that we can approach these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you. In the title of this session, there are a couple of words that kind of stand out. One is culture, building a reading culture, and you kind of alluded to that. What does that mean, to develop a culture in which reading is popular? It's widespread. So I'm going to approach this from two different angles. First, I'd like to ask Mr. Aguiari, who's head of the Book Publishers Association, to describe how does reading develop a nation? Maybe you could speak to the kinds of ways it develops a nation, and then I'm going to follow that up to Pusna, who has some comments related to a reading culture as well.
All right, thank you, John. I think maybe, the important area to start this is to look at the correlation between literacy and development. And the map of the world when we look at the developed countries and those that are not developed, it's a carbon copy of illiteracy. Wherever there's poverty, there's illiteracy. Wherever there's development, you see a high degree of literacy. And as it is with nations, so it is also to a large extent with families. The poorest people happen to be those, by and large, those who are illiterate. So that's a very important dynamic that we need to look at. And the reason is very, very apparent to all of us. I mean, the greatest asset of every country is the human capital. And if that human capital resides in individuals or citizens who are illiterate and cannot add value to the things that they do, then the country suffers irreparably. And that is the problem that we're having. So I think it's not just a matter of a culture of reading that we're concerned about, but it's a matter of development. Are we going to develop a country without getting the citizens to be highly literate so that even if they're selling water, they can add value to it? But the funny thing is that sometimes our developmental programs seem to be in the arena of let's try and get more oil, let's try and get more cocoa, let's try and make sure that we have our roads, rather than thinking about the fact that developing our human capital probably is the first area that we should go to. I think that if the development of human capital is that important, then we will devote as much as we devote to other areas of our economy, like education and health and infrastructure. I think I'll end there. I'll come back.
I just want to, while we're talking about that, I want to follow up with a quick question. Ellie, are you aware of what publishers have done to promote literacy or to something we could do in that whole area as publishers?
Yeah, I mean, when we start talking about reading, for instance, I mean, we're Christian publishers here. I'll say that maybe we need to start looking at the area of what is it that people want to read? What do they want to read? Because oftentimes, I mean, and what are the reading abilities of the people that we want to reach? Because sometimes you realize that somebody will want to read, but they're challenged as to what to read. And unless they get something that they have a high interest in, they will not read. And reading, for me, is also, or should also be seen as entertainment, because it's competing with other things that grabs our interest. If one is interested in reading, they will gravitate towards reading. If they're interested in watching television, they will gravitate. So our books, and when we're publishing our books, we must also realize that we want to make sure that people are captivated or attracted to our books somehow. And that's the aspect that we as publishers bring to bear.
Thank you. Bruce, now, your comments related to what it means to have a culture in which reading is prevalent and very part of life.
Okay, thank you, John. In Nigeria, I realized that when we talk about reading, people are reading, but they are reading under instructions. They are reading in schools to pass their exams. They are reading in schools to pass their tests. In fact, after exams, some of them are happy because they are going back home and they will not read again. So they are reading, but the question now is, how do we help them to read based on personal conviction? How do we get them to read even when daddy and mommy are not around, even when the teacher is not around, even when there is no assignment on the table? And the aspect of culture, my own understanding of culture is a way of life. Culture is beyond just a program. You can have a program and still not have a culture. My understanding of culture making is a situation where people are reading willingly, just like they are eating saw the Ghanaians, you know, they dance in such a way, they dance in line with their culture. There was passion, there was commitment. So this is my understanding of a culture. How do we take it to a level where the children are reading willingly? But the kind of reading I am seeing here is this. Many writers, especially church leaders, they have influence. So when they write, their members buy their books. But the question is, are they really reading these books? All right? And another aspect of this culture making that I have also discovered is this. I think the question should be personal this time around. Husnam, why do you read? Why do you read? I read because I have a compelling vision. If I don't read, I will perish. If I don't read, I can't grow my organization. If I don't read, I cannot train people. So for me, a compelling vision is helping me to read, because that is helping me to depend on reading so that I can have more and to do more.
You referred to children and reading, and not really wanting to read after school is out and things like that. Even though you've done quite a bit writing for young people, tell us what goes into your thinking as you create books that you believe youth will want to read.
Thank you, John. First, I'm very happy that you raised the question about personal conviction. Why do you read? Thank you. I would like to share first about how they got me to read willingly. It was in high school. I was in a confessional high school from Lutheran Church, and we had a library, and we also had a class called library. It's different from the continuous reading that we have in French curriculum. We still have that program, but in my high school we had continuous reading. There is a teacher, and they will choose a book to study during a novel or poem or a fiction. But we had a class called library. We just go to the library and we sit and we read whatever we want. And I'm very grateful because in my childhood, no one, I would say that no one forced me to read or judged me about what I wanted to read. Because of course, they will make sure that in that library they will have good books. But it was not like about Bible or history. We had those classes already. So we had novels, adventures, and I could read as many books as I want on adventures, fantasy maybe. So I think I got the reading habit from there, and I associated reading with pleasure, free time, no test, no report required at the end. And also at home, we had bookshelves, and also my parents, my father especially, he liked also to read, but he will not force us to read. We have books, we are exposed to books every day. So sometimes there is no light to watch TV. We often have power failure, and you have books. You can read books if your lamp is good enough. And sometimes there is no program on TV, and then you are exposed to books, and I learned how to read willingly. No one forced me. It could be even my dad is a teacher. I could read teaching books. My mom was a nurse. I could read medical books because I was free, and that's something that I really am grateful for as a child. And as a children's author, I also want the children to enjoy reading as I enjoy reading, and I did as a teacher. Also, I had an experience as a teacher in the same town. The things are different now. We still have, like I said, continuous reading in the curriculum, but now all schools are striving for. It's good to strive for excellency, but it's a competition. So, and they think reading for pleasure is not important anymore because it will not make you the first high school in the region. So, with my children, I will try, we didn't have a library in that school, but I will still try to make them love reading. I will let them free maybe to act some part of the book. If they read an interesting story and there is a part that they can act, I will ask them to act. And they are interested in reading because they will play, they will act.
So you really involve them, all the senses really, in the act of reading,
Yes.
making it a physical act too.
Yes, they can read aloud, they can act. If there's a part they can I try to engage them, and also I can ask them if it's a poem. So I'm not really fond of poems, but I try to ask them to write a poem just for fun. It was not a test. So I say you can read this and write your own poem about your feelings, how you feel, and you post it on the wall, and you write your name as an author. So they were engaged, they really loved the idea, and they were interested in reading because they had to read that book. So but because they knew that, okay, I will read, and then I can also write something like that. So I try to engage them, not only read for reading, but because you like it, because you, as a reader, you are important, because you can write something like that. Yeah.
So you were fortunate to grow up in a home where reading was done. Your parents read and you observed that, correct? So what about children who grow up in areas where they don't have that in their family history, where maybe books have never been a part of the family, maybe books haven't even been accessible? So how do you foster that kind of a family culture, I guess we could say? Now, Lily, you're involved in doing something along those lines in helping to make books accessible to people who maybe have not had access to them. Could you share with the group about what you're doing?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. That's where the Ghana Library Authority wants to complement the efforts of the government to initiate free accessible education to all. So communities and societies that do not have libraries, we have our mobile van, we go to those communities, churches, we organize reading clinics for them. Then we lend out our books to them. After the reading clinic session, we lend out the books. We pick prefects, we call them library prefects. So they will be in charge of those books. After a period of time, we go back again, we find out, make a survey, what impact have we made after the time we left and the time we were there? Are we improving on our services? If not, we go back, we reschedule or do 1 or 2 homework, we go back again. Then after a period of time, we should be able to make an impact in that particular communities. Then we form readers clubs. Those communities, they have to be clubs. Day in, day out, as churches. It's not only when we are in school, our organizations, where those clubs can be, we can form those clubs in the churches. Recently, we had this program with Mr. Dramani and his church. They were organizing a fanfare, food bazaar in celebration of the anniversary. So he invited us. And it was a first time experience to the children because they remember most of them haven't visited the library before. They don't know how the library is, what goes on in the library. And when we were interacting with them, having the clinics, they were asking questions, we were explaining to them. And you could see they were so excited. So this is one of the ways we reach out to those who are not able to access the library. The library is open to all. You just give us a call, we come. And during those sessions, we go along with Scrabble, word formation materials. Because it gets to a time when you are reading with them, they become exhausted. Because most of them are not used to. So if you engage them so much into the reading, they get tired. But when you bring up this form of games, indoor games into it, then it brings their minds back onto what we are doing. And the kind of ways they've been able to learn during the reading section, they implement, and it shows in the kind of ways they are able to form during the Scrabble section or the game section.
So building that enthusiasm for reading, that's very interesting. Just an informal poll for the panel. It's kind of a loaded question. And everybody says people are reading less than they used to be. Do you agree? You don't have to answer verbally. You can pull up your hand or something. Do you think we truly are reading less than before? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and the reason is very not far-fetched. I mean, when we were in school, I recall that we used to have a library box behind us, that during free periods we could easily go and just grab a book and to read. But I don't think, just like we heard from him, I don't think the natural instinct is there for our children to just gravitate towards a book. Because, I mean, they haven't had books, access to books as kids. They haven't developed the habit of reading. And I just say that reading is a learned habit. You learn how to read, and then you begin to enjoy reading. And once you haven't cultivated that habit of reading and interacting with text, it becomes very, very difficult. And sometimes they are even challenged because you take a book and he can comprehend, or the person can comprehend just a fraction of what you're reading. And when it's like that, they get demotivated to continue reading. But if there's a process and a plan, and that's why I get a little bit more technical when it gets to this aspect of reading and all that. I think it's something that must be embraced at the highest policy levels. I mean, NGOs can do their bit, but I think that is something that needs to be tackled from a very high level and embrace everybody, and the communities should be involved so that reading becomes something that we think is necessary for our national development. When we ended up in South Africa years ago, and we saw big billboards, we said that a reading nation is a winning nation. Is that true? I think it is.
I think you were going to say.
I also think that part of the problem is content. Growing up in Ghana, we tend to learn A is for apple, I is for igloo, Y is for yacht. Goodness sake, even now, I've never seen an igloo. I've never seen a yacht. I'm not saying those are not good to use, they are. But if we want to make it user-friendly, reader-friendly, and culturally acceptable, then we should think of the content we use. For example, why doesn't A become arm? Why doesn't I become something else that you use locally? In Ghana, Y could become yam. Every child eats yam, knows about yam, and therefore they relate to it. So to a large extent, some of the content puts people away, and therefore as authors, as publishers, we need to look at the content, even for adults who do not read. And as we always say, children learn from imitation. If you do not read as parents, the likelihood is your child will not read. So it starts from us. And we ourselves don't read except for maybe the daily newspapers and maybe those of us taking exams, because we do not in the same way find things interesting to read. So authors, publishers, here you are, content. Make it attractive, make it friendly, make it things that people can relate to. For example, a child is reading about a festival in their area, they'll gladly read it. Of course, they need to know about other countries, but you start them with their country, build their interest, and then they will themselves move on.
To add up to what Mrs. Matilda said, currently since there are mostly publishers and authors here, books for preschools have become a challenge to us because the child starts learning from when he or she is a baby till he grows. And those kind of books are in shortage and we don't have access to them to even teach the children. So this one I'm throwing it to you, since we have authors here, you consider it. Number two, reading starts from conception. Studies have shown that pregnant women who read to their babies, the babies turn out to be more intelligent than those who are not being read to. Do we read to our babies when we are pregnant? Do we read to them?
Yeah.
Do we read bedtime stories to them when they are born? Or they come, Mommy, Daddy, please read to them. Do we read to them or we ask them to read as a form of punishment? I don't want you to go out today, get inside and read. So from that onset, the child sees reading as a form of punishment. So he or she does not even want to have access to books because mommy wants me to be inside to read. It's just like when you are in basic school, you are punished to read when you are late to school. But they forget to instill into us that reading your surroundings is keeping the environment clean. So you ask the child, go inside and read without telling him or her the essence of reading, but the child is seeing it as form of punishment. So from the onset, we've destroyed, if the foundation of a building is not strong, the building will collapse. So from the beginning, we don't instill that habit into them until they grow. So when they are growing, they don't want to read. They don't know what reading is. So they will not read. We ourselves, we are not being an example to them. How can they also read? Thank you.
Okay. You asked the question whether it was better before now. If you look at it, I agree with what Madam said. I read a book, and the author of that book said he doesn't read books written by some professors because in the process of analysis, they remove the meat and leave the bones. And he doesn't want to eat the bones, he wants the flesh. So many authors from my own experience of training writers in Nigeria, they are writing books for their readers, not with their readers. They offer their readers what they know instead of what the readers need. So research is low, engagement in the process of content development is always as a result of, is often as a result of what I think the readers must have. And number two, if you look at so many civil service structures in Africa, you will discover that the efficiency before is better than the one now. In Nigeria, there are many civil servants who are still receiving salaries, whether they contribute or not. So, I mean, I don't know about you in Ghana or in your country, but as if we continue to have people who are getting income with or without sufficient contributions, reading cannot be encouraged in Africa. And number three, sir, briefly, I also observed that right now in Nigeria, many people are reading, but they are reading only books that are solutions to their problems. So, which means the question now is, why is Bill Gates reading? Why is Jeremy reading? So I'm of the view that this continent may never have the culture of reading until we raise entrepreneurs more than civil servants, until we raise visionaries who will perish if they don't read. I think that will be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. We know we are publishers and editors and writers here, so if truly reading is diminishing, as it were, how can we be part of the solution? I think Matilda already mentioned content, the content we create. I did some workshops with Jules in Cameroon and Benin, and I remember we had two tracks, one for booksellers and one for writers, going on simultaneously, and then we'd meet together, and the writers would pitch their story, their book ideas to the booksellers, and sometimes they would just go, "Oh, you gotta be kidding. Nobody will ever read that book." You know, the reality, knowing the market, knowing the readers, and giving them content. So I'd like to, before we segue into some questions from the floor, how can we as writers and publishers be part of this solution? What are some creative things that we can try or do to try to, in fact, really encourage reading? Does anything come to mind? Now let's just jump right in.
I would say the packaging of books, the outward looks of books. There are some books in the libraries, people come and they never look at them. They've been there and the only thing we do is to withdraw them from the shelves. Some of them are not presentable, they are not attractive. Immediately you even give it to a child, he says, auntie. They phonics for the younger children, because that's where the reading starts. The arts, the cats, arts, those kind of things. You should have more of them, and also there should be of hard copies. The outward appearance should be hard covers. They are easily mutilated when the covering is not of good quality. So you should look at that as well.
Good point. Even over, Dave, any comments on that?
Oh, yes. I think some creative ways to make people read, I think one way could be to challenge them. And I would like to share an experience we have in my church. I think my pastor initiated that program because he realized that many pastors will not read the Bible. They will read only the part that they need for the sermon. So it's true that personally also there are some parts of the Bible that I will not read if I'm not forced to read, because there's numbers, things like that. So yeah. So in my church we have a program that every year we have a program called Reading the Bible in 5 days. So the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation in 5 days. And how do we make it possible? First of all, we give priority to that. It's like a spiritual retreat. We give priority. Even the pastor will drop everything unless there's really something important somewhere out of the town. But usually he's there in the room with us. So we all come to church. We find places to sleep. It will be on the floor. Those 5 days are just to read the Bible and to eat. So we have those who can read aloud. We come up from, if many people can read, we take turns with a team of 3 people, 10 verses, 10 verses, 10 verses. And there are some places that we already mark our Bible. There are some places that will say, okay, now women we read aloud. And we keep reading 10 verses, and men. And there are chosen passage, like we know that maybe when God is giving a promise to Abraham, now men, you read, and they read aloud, and they feel it, like God is really giving them that. If it's women, I noticed that when we read about the woman, wife, spouses, what is your duty? And women read that part, they will read and they will laugh. And we readers, as we read, we change tones according to characters, not to make it sound funny. But for example, we respect commas, full stop, and maybe if there is a list, we really read it as I'm giving you a list and you are listening, do this, do that, and after and when we are reading narratives like Jesus' parables, we are really into that story. And when there is a place like when Jesus said Lazarus, I think the Bible said he cried in a loud voice. We really take a loud voice to say, Lazarus, come forth. And even people who are sleeping, they will wake up. And I've been to that program for maybe 5 years, and each year is special. People are, the first day they come, they don't believe it. But at the end, they discover places in the Bible that they didn't know before. And they understand some places in a new way because of maybe the way we read it. And at the end, everybody's been no comment, no sermon, no nothing. So at the end, we are all conscious that the Bible is a living word. And the thing is that it's a creative way also to make them read, because after that people are like, I'm going to read the Bible again. When I come back home, I start from Genesis again, so that next year when we have that program, I've been reading the Bible. Yes, so I think that's one creative way I can share.
So you're saying perhaps one key is reading as part of a group. I know that it can be viewed as antisocial in some cultures to read alone, but reading together is a positive. I wonder if there's something, reading club, something in there for us, application.
some reading
To
class.
get reading together as a group. Maybe that would encourage you, like you did with reading.
Yes,
Bible.
yes, and reading together also. And I agree with her when she said we should read to our kids in the womb. I never. Oh, sorry, I'm losing my English. I hope I will have that blessing one day to read the. But I read to my nephew. I babysit a lot, and I read to my nephew. He's a toddler, so he doesn't know about books. But I will carry him on my knees, and I will read the Bible. He's a toddler. He's like 18 months. So, and I will let him point at the words he wants me to read. He'll just be like this, and I'll read that verse, and he'll turn, and I'll read that verse. And he associated being on my knees, choosing the words, and every morning he will come with my Bible, and and when I pick and I take my Bible, he said now he wants to sit on my knee. So I think he's already associating reading with pleasure, good time, free time. So maybe I hope he would like to read later.
Can I also say that as writers and publishers, we should also look at different formats and not just be thinking of the book, hard copy book, because as we heard yesterday, there are all kinds of formats, audio, digital. I've been involved in World Reader, doing work in Ghana, and in the Eastern region, we have found out that even children who did not like to read and could not read, when they started to be taught how to read, and they began to read, and they were introduced to the tablet because of the craze of holding something like that, and it's electronic, they read better. And now, they're not just reading for leisure as in supplementary reading, they're actually even being taught in school by their curriculum and everything on the tablet. And therefore, publishers, writers, look at other ways of reading. For the younger ones, more board books, more pop-up books, because the children want to put their hands there and look at it and so on. It is very sad that you want to do a pop-up book or something, and most printers cannot do it for you. I find myself in that situation. For the last 6 months, I'm looking for a Ghanaian printer that can do pop-up books for me. I haven't been able. I have to go to China, I have to go to Malaysia, and so that's a challenge to you, that let's develop indigenously how we can do these things so that our children can have not just the hard book, but other ways of reading. For the adults who cannot read, the audio book is a fantastic thing. You are in your car, you slot it, and you are listening. You are a woman cooking, you slot it and you are listening. And this can get even the adults who do not want to read.
I will go on the other side and say that we did a strong advocacy for reading on this continent. Very, very strong advocacy, because if the policymakers are not aware of it, we who have become aware of the crucial importance of reading to our national development, to our individual human development, will have to become very strong advocates. And for us who are publishers, I think that has been reiterated here, that we need to extend our book list and then our portfolio so that all kinds of books will be published especially by us who are Christian publishers, because we are not just publishing, we have a mission, we have a mandate that we've been given to spread the word. And in spreading the word, we can spread it in many, many forms. Just like I said yesterday, the Bible is full of poetry, it's full of history. Why don't we do children's books, children's readers? Why don't we do young adults? The young adult genre in itself is one of the less published sectors in publishing. And I think as publishers, we need to be able to cater for that market. So that is what I would say.
In just a moment, we're going to open it up to questions. I'd like it to be questions. We probably all have comments, but if you have any specific questions for the panel, start thinking of those, because in just a moment we'll have that opportunity. But meanwhile, before we close off or head into that, Lily, Pusnam, any last thoughts related to being creative about promoting reading, building a reading culture?
Okay, recently after a program, a young man came to me and asked me, "Sir, can you recommend a book for me to read?" He asked me because he's a visionary, he's an entrepreneur. The first thing I think we need to do is to improve our ideal economy in Africa. We should take it to a level where the governments of Africa survive on ideas. But when you have oil money coming, whether you think or not, it's a problem. It's a problem. There is no way people will read because they want to improve. So I think we need to help our young people understand the concept of entrepreneurship. We need to help our young people start their own companies, start their own organizations, so that they will be forced to read, not by any of us, but based on need on ground. If they don't, they perish. The second thing I am also looking at is, recently I released 2 books. I started a series for children. I created a character. Her name is Muna Pagir. You know, she is a reading character. Some of us who are storytellers, we can create reading characters in our own books, so that as children read these books, they imitate, they are inspired, they want to be like these reading characters. You know, when we were kids, many of us wanted to be like Tom and Jerry. Are you with me? Fighting each other, you know, all these things. So we can inspire a new generation of children by creating these characters. The last thing I will say here is this. How many of us publishers and authors read our books? How many? Have you read all the books in your publishing house? You see, what you saw is what you read. If we don't read our books, we will not be excited about our books. We will not talk about our books. But we want people to read our books, but many of us don't read our books. So I think this is another aspect we have to look at.
Thank you. Lily, any last thoughts?
I also suggest we give books and any material of reading as prizes or awards to our children in schools, in churches, at homes when they are of good behavior. That should be a form of rewarding them. On their birthdays, instead of buying them candies, dresses, teddy bears, I don't say those are not good though, but we give them reading materials as gifts. And with that, there's a form of inspiration, and they also cultivate that habit from there.
Thank you, panel. Really appreciate your participation. Questions? Any questions from the audience for a specific panelist or just the panel in general?
The first, I do not accept that the Africans, we do not read. We read. But what we are lacking is an effective reading. And when we tackle to the matter of culture, we Africans, we practice more theoretical than practical. That's why we Africans, we have been living in a practical way than a theoretical way. Because that was the way we were transmitting our values, customers, and everything. But now, when we look to the content, we for the educational perspectives, that we need to structure our content from simple to complex. But most of the content we get, it is complex, not simple. So my question is that we Africa, we do it, but we lack effective reading. Now, how can we be able to develop, to inspire our generations from where we are and those who are coming after us to be effective reading? That is my perception. Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak to that?
I think that as countries, individual countries, if we clearly, as part of our national policies, if we do set up reading policies in each country, as we do with economic whatever, if clearly we have reading policies, and we know that government not just supports it, but government is putting it in the budget and providing for it, so that in year 1 to year 3, as part of the curriculum, a child should be able to be at a certain level of reading. Therefore, each school knows that this is a requirement, and then they will ensure that the child is not just reading history books, science books, or whatever, but it's also reading for leisure. And it becomes part of the national thing, not just individual schools or individual communities striving for it, but then the whole nation working towards it. That can also help very well.
Okay, I want to respond to him. I want us not to see reading as a Western thing, because God gave us the Bible even before Africa was created. So our parents during hunting, they read symbols. They didn't read books, but they read symbols. They communicated, they understood each other. So I am of the view that it is time for us to see reading as part of our culture in Africa. But the one thing we need to do now is how do we improve it to a level that is also existing in other places. But the Bible has been in existence right from the beginning. And God gave us the Bible because He expected all of us to read.
I mean, one of the basic assumptions that we make is that when our children go through school, they will come out and they will be avid readers. And I think that's a very false assumption. In some of these developed countries we speak about, the children go through reading programs. They are actually taught to read before they enjoy reading. I mean, as we speak now, we are conducting an assessment of reading in a school. I'm not going to mention the school because Ghana Library Authority is here. We're working with them on that. Yesterday and today, we checked the reading comprehension in a specific school in Accra. We managed to check the reading abilities of about 150 secondary school children. 65% of these children are reading under the basic level. They are below basic. 65% of the 150. We have only about 25% who are at the basic level. Proficiency level, we had just about 6%, and only one child out of the 150 is reading at an advanced stage, which shows that we have a major problem with reading comprehension. The children are reading, but they are not comprehending what they're reading. It's a very fundamental problem. And that is why I agree with Mrs. Elisa that we need a certain level of awareness at the highest possible level, so that we factor that one in. Fortunately for us, I think in June I was in Kenya, and the African Union has taken it up. So at the meeting, we had a memorandum that said that every African country must have a reading policy. That is a part of national developmental policy. So it's coming. I mean, I think that the awareness is coming all over Africa that we need to relook at this whole issue about literacy and reading. Because a literate citizenry is the one that will sustain the democracy that we are all engaged in now. Because without that, we'll have major social problems. Okay, thank you.
We have time for just one question, and please go straight to the question because we only have about 5 minutes. So
I am looking at reading as against the background of technological challenge we have in the world today. I'm looking at technology as a challenge, though it's also a plus, but I'm looking at it as a challenge because in my country, and particularly in my home with my children, I observe that they will tell you that buy me a phone, you get a phone for them. They are not reading materials, they are not reading news on the phone, but then they are on social media watching videos and things that interest them. So now, if we're talking about reading, encouraging a reading culture against this backdrop, how do we do to encourage them to learn to read more than watching videos and pictures on Instagram and Facebook and what have you. That's a huge challenge in my country. I don't know what happens elsewhere.
Okay, that's a good question to wind up on, probably because it's probably something a lot of us have been wondering about. Throw that one out to a brave member of the panel to speak to.
In the beginning, I talked about reading clinics and readers clubs. You can contact us if you need any education on it, but as a church, as Christians, we can form those clubs in our churches. We have the youth service, the children's service. Let's form those clubs amongst them. Then during those sessions, we have our reading clinics. The reading clinics should be very exciting. If it's dull, it's boring, they will give up on it. But it should be exciting. Then we involve those little games, puzzle, word formation, Scrabble. When it becomes exciting, then the club moves on. So we should think about it. Let's form the readers clubs in our churches, in our communities, in the schools. In the secondary schools in Ghana, we have writers and debaters clubs. But do we have readers clubs? No. Let's initiate those ideas, and I think they would help.
Okay, last comment now from...
For the technology lovers in our homes, I think that is an encouragement to us to look for, these days, even on the mobile phones, World Reader has a simple app that you can download and you can read the books on the mobile phone. So if your children are tech geeks and they are using the mobile phone, you have to be a bit high-handed. Institute times that they can watch their videos and things, and times that they can read. Otherwise, they will just be watching videos and things. I think that's where the parents come in to enforce rules and regulations in their homes. And that is our duty as parents, to make sure that we train our children well. And the training includes setting boundaries. So children know when to watch TV, when not to watch TV. It can come to a point where you even take the phone from them. Don't think that you are being harsh. You are trying to get the child to do the right thing at the right time. And so if it is the mobile phone they like, introduce reading on the mobile phone. If they will not read and they will do other things, take the phone from them. You won't be harsh. You are just trying to set the boundaries and maintain.
Well, thank you, panel. I think, let's give our panel a big hand. They've done a fantastic job. A lot to think about, a lot to put into practice.